All right, Mr. Lang, please call the Facilities Subcommittee roll to order.
Thank you, Chairperson Leary.
Yes.
Mr. Gignac.
Here.
Ms. Rosikowicz.
The agenda items tonight are the facilities regarding capital projects that are going to be coming in 2013 in the spring, as well as for the upcoming fall 2013 and 2014. Mr. Lang.
Thank you. On the first item, to provide an update on the status of some of the current projects that were funded last year, that the work is still ongoing. A few things to report back, positive and negative, and then have a discussion about some of the capital projects for next year that are in the pipeline. This is just conversational. There's nothing to address on paper, the current status of the projects. With regard to the Lowell High School and Robinson Middle School, the exterior door replacement. As you recall, we went out to bid on that project last fall. We received two bidders, two proposals. One of the proposers withdrew his proposal, and it was right at the time that we were looking at possibly integrating the access control system into the spec. So we decided to forego the award of that contract and go back with the architect, work with some of the state contract vendors on access control systems to incorporate, including an access control system, into the new bid that went out. That took place, and we advertised that bid about a month and a half ago. It opened last week, unfortunately, to only one bidder again, and the bid was just about now 2 times the budget for the project. So I'm personally not certain about the intent of the bid, if it was just throwing a number at a project to see if it would stick or not. But clearly the bid that was submitted is outside the range of acceptability. In going back and talking to some of the other bidders who we had anticipated had bid and who had pulled the bid specs, because we want to really try to find out why we're not getting more interest in proposals in the project at this time. A couple of things came to light to work on as we kind of embark on this for a third time. One, there seemed to be some confusion or openness regarding the inclusion of the access control, because the access control is going to be provided by a third vendor, and really there'd be a coordination aspect with regard to the installation of the new doors. The door contractor won't be proposing and providing the actual access control system. That's being...
Just interrupt you real quick. So basically then these two vendors are going to have to work together, or is it something, the access control you're attaching to the door after it's put up? I mean, just...
It's going to have to work together.
Okay.
We wanted to, we went through the course of this fall looking at a bunch of different access control systems, and we really determined the one that would meet our best needs and that we liked the best for current use, and then also provided scalability, as it's a web-based product, was a system called Red Cloud. Red Cloud. So there are 4 vendors on state contract that provide that particular system. So we asked those 4 vendors to provide proposals to us to include the Red Cloud, the background, the infrastructure currently for the high school, and then the Robinson, and we'll have the scalability in the future as we add other door access into the district onto it. So we know we're going to select a vendor, one of the 4, to provide that system to us in the short term, but what we advise the contractors is that we would be putting in the Red Cloud system. There's certain hardware and electrical work that needs to be done to integrate that system, but basically there'll be a junction box about 5 to 10 feet above the door that are going to have the access control. So the door contractor is going to be responsible for putting in the new doors and basically wiring to the 5-foot junction box. And then the access control vendor is going to be responsible for grabbing the connection from the junction box and bringing it back to the head end room to tie into the system. So there is a certain amount of integration, though, because we want the door contractor to actually install all the door contacts on the frames. We don't want to run into warranty issues after we get the frames in if we had another vendor screwing or drilling holes in the frames to accept the access control. So they're going to be provided by the access control vendor, but actually installed by the door contractor. So they are going to have to work hand in hand through the process. Another issue that came up talking to these various door vendors is I'm understanding there's a large number of door projects similar to this that are on the market right now because of safety and security concerns, particularly regarding municipal and school buildings. So the Lowell project, where it's the 3 big buildings at the high school and then also the Robinson, there was some hesitation on the part of the contractors to undertake such a big scope of work. I guess the lead time for some of these frames and materials now is going out 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. We really wanted the project to be done during the summer, so they were contemplating whether they would be paying penalties at the end of the contract if the work wasn't done, possibly having to pay premiums if at the end of the summer we had to switch to a second shift. And they didn't quite know how to go about bidding that, and it seemed, as we were in the same bidding cycle as a bunch of other districts with smaller, kind of onesie-twosie type projects, and they decided to bid the smaller, quicker jobs to get done and not have to worry about the scale. I think the size of the project is attractive to some, obviously, because you can really concentrate your manpower at a particular facility and knock out a big project as opposed to jumping around, but it just didn't seem to yield the results we wanted. Our proposal at this point is to go back, actually to break up the project, because we really do want to do a phase of this project during the summer. Looking at the 3 buildings at the high school, it's most critical that we do the doors in the 1980 building and the field house complex. Again, the bidders have looked at the project. When you look at the Freshman Academy and the 22 building, those doors are actually in pretty good shape. They certainly need some tweaking, but they're not in as poor condition as the ones in the 80 building. And workmanship-wise too, because they are more historical buildings and there's some woodworking involved. There are also some unknown existing conditions that they're going to get into in field work when they take out the frames and they have to put in the new frames, so there was some hesitation on that. So the recommendation is going to be to break out the project and pretty much immediately go back out to bid for the 1980 building and go out to bid for the Robinson as a standalone project. We'll probably bid them both separately. It was originally of interest and concern to me to have all of the doors provided at the high school by one vendor, but it really just doesn't look like that's going to happen at this point. And we really do need to get that 80 building up and going. So what we're proposing to do is actually have the couple of the door companies who potentially could bid the project meet with a representative of the architectural firm to really fine-tune any questions that they may have about the spec tying into the access control. We'll have an access control vendor selected and do that over the next week or so to go right back out to bid, to hopefully have a bid opening towards the end of May, first week in June at the latest, to try to get the work done at the high school during the course of the summer. We're going to have to build some protections into the contract where if there are extenuating circumstances on lead time around some of the frames or hardware, that the contractor wouldn't necessarily be penalized as long as they're working in good faith with us and would agree to shift to a second shift installation schedule towards the end of August when school goes back in session. But we'd like to do that, split that up and get the 80 building of the high school done and the Robinson done almost immediately. And then take a look at having the architect with the revised spec go back out for the Freshman Academy and the 22 building for probably a fall installation. And maybe at that point in time, we won't be competing with as many districts trying to do summer work, but we'll be able to get a more fair schedule, which would possibly cut down on some of the second shift differential you'd have to pay because there wouldn't be as many projects going out to bid in the fall. So that's my best kind of case analysis and recommendations at this point to try to move that project along.
Okay, just one quick question, then just, I guess, formally, do you need an endorsement from the school committee to move forward this way? Is that what you're looking for at this point?
I don't need a specific vote. I think more of an acknowledgement, or maybe, a motion certainly wouldn't hurt to endorse this plan, because I don't want someone to come back and say, well, we're supposed to do all 3 buildings at the same time. I just don't think that's likely. So if the committee or the subcommittee were willing to make a recommendation to kind of endorse that path, to separate out the 80 building and the Robinson from the other 2, and to go back out to rebid with that work proposed for the summer, and the Freshman Academy and the 22 building being proposed as a second shift during the fall. That'd be helpful.
So so you're definitely going to do the rest of the high school then, including the Freshman Academy, looking fall, probably the following summer for realistically getting it done?
No, I think, to be honest with you, it'd be realistic to do it second shift. If it worked out well, possibly being able to do it in the fall before the heating season, because there's not going to be a lot, I'm anticipating not a lot of door projects out there at that point in time. So I think if we actually stagger it, get the 80 building and the Robinson out now, wait a month and a half, bid the 22 and the Freshman Academy to work to maybe commence late September through late November. Again, you're talking far fewer doors in those buildings than you are in the 80 building, and I'd at least propose that. If we go out to bid and it fails for some reason, we could always push that work off until the springtime.
All right, so this is with the access coding then?
Oh, I want to do the access coding all around.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, let's do the 80 building and the Robinson now
With the access coding, though?
with the access control.
Okay.
Yeah.
Access control, excuse me. So the other question then, far as the rest of the schools, do we envision putting that into the capital plan with the city going forward?
We do, and when we get to the capital plan for next year, that's included in there, and I'll walk you through that.
Okay.
The other issue that we run into on some of these projects, just because of the scale of the high school bid, where it's over $100,000, it requires DCAM certification. So that adds another layer to the bidding. Not all, a lot of local vendors are DCAM certified. And when we look at the individual schools where they're not on the same campus, it's not that important that it be the same manufacturer of the frames and all the doors to look the same. So we can bid those projects out as individual projects, and you might be able to attract a bunch of smaller bidders to those, and you can stagger and do those right through the end of the summer into the fall.
Just one follow-up. Why the Robinson? Why is that the first? Just because
Well-
it's the doors are in the most need? Is that the?
Yeah, when we looked at, that was part of last year's prioritization of all the middle schools and even the elementary schools. The Robinson doors were in the roughest shape. So we prioritized, and that was included funding-wise last time.
All right. So the second part is the Riley Elementary School bathroom renovation.
Yeah, this is actually good news. This one is going along well. We had several bidders on this particular project. As you recall, Icon Architecture helped us put the bid specs together on this. The Charter Brothers was the low bidder on the project. They were awarded the contract, and they commenced work right towards the end of March, early April on the site. Basically, they're at they're doing their work second shift, so it's not conflicting with the school day. These are the third and fourth grade bathrooms in the rear of the building. They were able to get some extra work in this past weekend because the school happened to be open for a basketball tournament, as well as this school vacation week because there was no one on site, so they got some extra shifts in. They're at the point right now where they're just going to get the first round of rough plumbing and electrical inspections to then be able to start the drywall and cement boarding that they're going to do in the bathrooms. So we're doing very well. There was the only hold up on the project, which really isn't significant, is a couple of the tiles that were selected in the color palette for the walls were back ordered 2 weeks. So it was better to wait for the extra couple of weeks to get the right tiles. But I'm anticipating that project will wrap up sometime by the middle of May, I'd say. Even if we gave it a little, another week or two for punch list type stuff by the end of May. But I'm very pleased with how that project is playing out.
Yeah,
And
quickly.
it's
I don't
under
know-
budget as well.
Good. That's perfect. I guess I need to go back to the Lowell High School, Robinson Middle School. We
Yep.
need to take a vote. I guess the recommendation from the administration to, I guess, break up the project and begin with doing the 1980 building and the field house at the high school and the Robinson this spring, and then begin the follow-up process this fall. So I think that is a form of a motion. Second by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor say aye. Aye, is approved.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I guess so good. It's under budget as far as the Riley School bathroom, but it's going to be on time and it's going to be in May. So good.
Yeah, it might be off a week or two, but it's not significant, and I'm really happy with the product, so that one's going well.
A water fountain repair?
Water fountain update, we had kind of had that update the last time we talked. So this is on your agenda later on tonight. I mistakenly attached the wrong salary scale to the job posting when it came out the last time. So I need you, when we're in the regular meeting, to approve the new rate, and it's about $1,000 difference that I need transferred in to cover the account through the end of June. But the posting is already out there. We'll just revise the salary to the posting. We don't need to repost it. And it's set to close next Thursday, a week from tomorrow. So we would look to interview immediately and bring on the 2 temporary plumbers. And we've already started working with some of the state contract vendors that supply the plumbing supplies to be able to get the folks right up and going. So I anticipate that will get started right around May 1st and get us carried as deeply into the summer as we need to start repairing and replacing the water bubblers. There's a good chunk of money in the current year capital plan, and then we also proposed additional money to continue the project with the new set of funds. So we'll use these temporary plumbers to utilize the existing funding and then also be able to get deeper into the project with next year's allocation.
Good. Any questions? Bathroom partition replacement?
Yep, this is more good news. As we replace bathroom petitions. This particular bid went out, we're starting this one at the elementary schools and working our way up. And the bid actually came in significantly under budget. So we're going to be, we awarded a contract to I want to say it's New England School Specialties or something like that, to begin this work. And they're doing the demolition and replacement at 7 of our elementary schools. Again, came in under budget, so we refined the bid specification, and we're going immediately back out to bid to include now the high school and the freshman academy. So that we think there'll be enough funds left still in this current year budget to try to knock that off ahead of time. And we're gonna get out ahead of the curve on, that bid actually was already sent to the central register. It'll be in for next Wednesday, May 1st. It'll close around the 20th. And we're hoping to be able to get that work going right as we get into the summertime. So the high school and freshman academy will be updated then. And then there is, again, some additional money proposed for next year's capital plan, and we'll start knocking off the middle schools. So we're
Now,
doing it, we're kind of phasing it.
Okay, is the Malloy School part of that as well? I know,
The alternative schools are
Yeah.
part, I can't remember if they're part of the high school one or the middle school one, but under either circumstance, they'll be addressed this summer. I just can't remember if they're part of the high school or the middle schools. But all 4 of the alternative schools are included.
any questions, or
Just-
Mr. Gignac?
Just one, thank you. Are they, the principals and the staff, are they notifying parents that this work's going on? Just because we get a lot of complaints about the facilities, and I just want parents and people to know that we are addressing them and that they have something to look forward to.
You know what, I can find out for you. The other thing that I did, like on the bathroom petition project, we had our pre-construction meeting last week. We did select colors and things of that sort and talk about schedule. So when I get those schedules of when the vendors are going to be in the schools, we usually email the school principals so they can share with the staff, because there may be days that they have to shut down a particular bathroom while this work is going on. But I can emphasize to them to try to include it in some kind of a monthly newsletter or bulletin going out, just to keep the families involved.
Thank you. Now, the planning and prioritization for FY14, the first part is the comprehensive facilities assessment.
Do you, on the 13 stuff, just to wrap that up, do you want to just take a motion to accept it as a report of progress?
Take a motion to report of progress by Mr. Gignac, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor? Aye, ayes have it.
Okay, 2 things as we move towards 2014 capital planning. I believe I indicated at the last meeting that we had the comprehensive facility assessment RFP had closed. We received 4 proposals for that work. We've convened a planning team to review the proposals. We're meeting next Monday to do that. And hopefully for the meeting on May 1st, we'll bring forward a recommendation for a contract to award that project to someone. But that will be the group and the firm ultimately that comes in over the course of the next 6 to 9 months to look at the total Lowell Public Schools K-12 facility review, with special attention being paid to the high school around the accreditation, and also district-wide, including the high school, lining us up for any additional funding through the MSBA for any kind of facility revitalization grants that they have coming out.
Now, you have you announced the team on May 1st, who they are as well? I mean, is it?
Well, we have to do the review of the proposals. So the review team for the proposals is a scaled-down group than the bigger group that's going to be kind of overseeing this whole project. But myself, Mr. Curley from the school department, Ralph Snow and Jim Green from DPW, Tom Moses and Jim Cook from the Lowell Plan agreed to our offer to serve. So the 6 of us will be reviewing the proposals and ultimately bringing forward a recommendation for a firm to you. As the work gets started over the probably June, beginning of the summer year, we're going to include some additional representation from the elementary, middle, and high school to sit on that group, more for planning purposes and reporting. But there wasn't enough time to really include those members for the review of the proposals. So the 6 of us are going to do that next week. My goal would be to have a proposal recommendation to you for the May 1st meeting. If by chance it didn't make that, it'll be on there for the 2nd meeting in May. But we really want to get a firm named and have the contract get underway so that right around June 1st, we can launch that while staff is still there in the buildings before they leave for the summer.
Okay, good. Any questions? Okay. The FY 2014 capital plan, this is the first, we've seen it, I guess, a couple of times in some type of draft form.
Right.
We haven't had a chance to look at it tonight, but this is, from what our offline discussion with this is going to be, is what the city has already agreed to. And I guess the question is, we have until, I guess, May 1st, from a school committee perspective, really to make any changes, or?
Yeah, in working with the the manager's office and Tom Moses, the manager really wants to try to get the capital plan out to the city council and hopefully approved before we get into the budget discussions, because last year when we did it, well, it was certainly good to receive the endorsement and the funding. Particularly on the school-related projects, it's very difficult to do a lot of them during the regular school year. So if we're able to get the approvals prior to the actual end of the school year, and we can start some of the legwork to get these projects going during the summer, it's just easier when the buildings are unoccupied. So the manager's trying to get the council to approve the capital plan prior to the budget process. So he's looking at, I know he presented this plan, so the first few pages are Mr. Moses kind of laying out the city's financial picture. But then when it kicks in on page 7, there's been a number of planning and prioritization meetings. We asked schools for feedback. We had our buildings and operations department, the city's buildings and operations department, put forward projects. And basically, if you start on page 7, there's a list where it says under current costs, a lot of these were the projects that were included last year, so they were already funded and they're either complete or in varying stages of completion. And on page 8, under 2014, is when the proposals for next year kick in. And I just wrote with a little S, the projects that are school-related, just so that they can stand out for you. On page 8, like number 29 was the Robinson School doors. And when we had the facility subcommittee meeting, we talked about how when that project went out to bid, it came in higher than we'd expected, and we needed to put some extra money toward the Robinson doors and then the high school doors. So we're allocating additional funds in 14 to be able to couple with the funds that were already approved in 13 to fully complete those projects. So basically, when you start down on numbers 39, 40, and 41 were city projects, and then 42 is where the school projects start in.
Just, no, I guess, looking at it quickly, I'm going to take more time to digest it than more than tonight, but looking at the page 8, everything prior to, on page 7 is going to happen this summer, before the end of the calendar year, 2013. The 2014, then, what the S means basically is school.
I just did that just
Okay,
to
no, we thought it was summer real quick, but so basically, 2014, if you pick one of them, say the Butler Auditorium, that would be done anytime within 2014, probably the summertime because it's an auditorium, but.
Right.
Okay,
It's 2014 funding.
okay,
I just put the S to just distinguish school projects from city projects.
perfect. And the only other couple of questions, I guess, that Mr. Gignac and I were touching base on while you were going through a good presentation, was the Colley track. I mean, I know that's been an
Right.
issue. It's almost $377,000. Is that slated for next summer, or are we slating to do that in the fall? Or, I mean, it's obviously 2014, so.
So, well, I mean, technically, it's 2014 money.
Yeah.
But if the manager and the council agree to this in, say, early May,
Yeah.
the money could potentially be available by the end of May. I think there's only like a 20 or 30-day waiting period for you to get your loan financing in order. So technically, as of June 1st, we'd be able to access the money. It'd be a project that would have to go out to bid, and I'd imagine that the work would take place during this coming summer, before the fall season. That would be the intent, not to wait a whole year to get it done.
And that's just one item, but I guess going through it, like the Sullivan or the McAuliffe, a bunch of HVAC projects prior to the winter, you know, that's to be the same standard then. So if they would be approved by the council, in theory, that HVAC could be worked on during the summer prior to school years?
Yeah, in theory. Part of the issue on this, we basically, the HVAC numbers come from that study that we had done on the HVAC system
Did we
some
build
years
in the
ago.
inflation factor to it, or?
Yeah, there was an accelerator that was built in to basically figure out what the percentage cost per year are. It's just still a budget. I mean, we could get into a situation now, something could be more, something could
At
be
least you
less.
thought out, it wasn't that number from.
No, we went back to the engineer that did the work, and we asked what the accelerator from 2008
good,
per year was to bring it to present-day value. The big issues for us were really the constant issues we're having with the HVAC in the various schools. The other issue is the doors. A lot of schools, obviously, since the safety and security of schools and students has always been a priority, but it continues to be more in the spotlight. There were several schools that were recommending doors be replaced. Several schools that have chronically had, say, hot water heating issues, have hot water heaters that were recommended. But basically, this is a combination of our facilities department and the city's facilities department going through, the work orders, the chronic projects and problems that have plagued us, and prioritizing these projects. And what we tried to do was basically, between 2014 and 15 is when the city is going to have a considerable amount of money to put on capital projects. I think somewhere around $12 million was being earmarked for this particular year. The school projects add up to a little over $7 million of that $12 million. And they are the priority projects that the schools have submitted and Brian and I have reviewed. And we've had to do some exchange between 2014, 2015, just because you obviously don't have enough money to do everything all at once. But this is our recommendation and kind of best case scenario projects. The one thing that does concern me again, and we're going to have to take this into consideration when it comes to our budget discussions in May, there's a lot of work. I mean, $7 million worth of capital, and we really, quite honestly, don't have the staff on hand right now to manage a lot of these projects. We're trying to manage right now. We've got the Moody and the Washington window projects, which we actually put some mock windows in over this school vacation week. Those have got to go closed out this summer. We're going to need to engage the services of an engineering or architectural firm when it comes to the HVAC systems and some of the repairs and renovations that are needed. So we are going to have to go out to bid for either some OPM services or architect designer services, either on call or as part of a contract to manage this. And one of the things we are going to look at, talking to Bernie and Tom on the city side, because they've obviously got $6 or $7 million of projects here too, and they don't have anyone to manage those outside of existing staff. We're going to take a look and see, does it make sense to contract with an OPM like we've done on, say, like the Morey School construction project? Does it make sense to actually hire someone or a couple people to manage these projects for a year or two? Because it looks like we're going to have some significant money in 2014 and 15 to get a lot of these projects done. And there's a lot of work that's involved in preparing the bid specs, actually monitoring the work to make sure you're really getting what you're paying for. So that was my third bullet for this. We're still evaluating that, and we don't know what the recommendation is going to be yet, but it's going to be something coming along the lines with the budget. And it would either be to tie some additional staff or to contract for an OPM or an architect to do some of this work. Because we, quite honestly, there's no way for us to tackle all of this work at the same time over the summer. We're going to have to get some extra help to do this.
But to go over, like, I guess the last thing, if we want as a school committee recommend something else to the council, we really have until May 1st to make that.
Well, yeah, the
pretty
city,
much.
I believe the city council got a copy of this report.
Yeah.
Probably the last night at their meeting.
Okay, so they're
They set up
digesting
a
it right
public
now as
hearing
well.
for, I think, the second week in May.
All right,
So you would have until your meeting on May 1st to
Yeah.
really make a suggestion or a change or whatnot. So if you don't have to do anything tonight, but you can read through this. But these are our recommendations with regard to what we should try to get accomplished in 2014.
and then the administration's okay with what's being recommended?
Yep.
In the order that, I mean, that's the school administration. I mean, are you confident with what?
Yeah, I sat in on the meetings to do the planning and prioritizing of this, and given the funding that's available and the extent of these projects, I am very comfortable recommending them, and I think it's really going to go a huge way in 2 years' time to do some significant upgrades to the facilities.
And I think, obviously, I mean, they're obviously putting a significant investment into
Right.
the entire city, and it's great that capital plan is sharing it with the school department. The only question I had, and I haven't read Tom Moses' analysis, but I know a lot of the school buildings are coming off, the budget plan or the bonding, as it were. I'm not sure what the correct vernacular is,
Right.
but as that rolls off, a lot of this money we're putting back on is really, are we getting the same kind of investment back percentage-wise as we had previously? I mean, is there any analysis that's been done on that?
I personally wouldn't have the figures to really even do that. I do know that, I mean, for 13, 14, 15, 16, those 4 years were primary years because the city initially did the municipal bonding for 20 years. So the notes on the first school building projects are starting to come off. That is what's freeing up a lot of this money.
Yeah.
again, when you look at like time value of money, though, we were only paying 10%
Yeah,
for
that's true.
a 90% project. I honestly don't know in the big scheme of things, as far as all the city financing goes, what portion is school-related and what portion isn't.
I guess the question really is, do you feel confident that we're addressing all the facility needs in a timely fashion? I mean, other than building like a new school or
Right.
something to that extent, with the existing operations that we have, are we getting the funding we need to run, a proper school facility, K through 12? Now, I know the high school in and of itself we got a lot of different things with the MSBA
Right.
and a lot of different projects we'll be discussing for the future. But as an existing, going forward, the HVACs, are we confident that we're replacing them in a timely fashion? Are the roofs, in an appropriate, are they appropriate for, for our staff and for our school children?
Right.
Or should we be pushing for more? I mean, I guess that's without going through the analysis of the
Right.
money and without knowing. I mean, the high school alone has been an ongoing issue. We put a lot of time into it, a lot of discussion about it.
Right.
But are you, as an administration, confident right now that we're getting the right funding in that area?
I am confident that this is certainly in the right direction. We're playing catch-up, though. I mean, and I think the city and others will acknowledge this, too. When we had that, you look at HVAC, we had that study done in 2007 because we had HVAC systems that were failing. We should have, but again, we didn't have the money, and the city didn't have the money to be allocating $500,000 or $100,000 a year to upgrade these facilities. So this is a big one-time kind of infusion to get everything caught up and back on steam. There has to be a longer-term look at sustainability of these particular systems. You have to look at preventative maintenance. We don't, invest in those kind of programs at this point in time. This is the catch-up you need to really kind of get you up to par.
No, and it's a major investment. There's no doubt.
Right.
And I think I'm appreciative. I know that the other members of the committee are as well. Just a question, retrack a bit. The preventative maintenance, that's something that we need to discuss in the next facility meeting, because that's obviously upfront money is going to save us money in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
But the second issue here really is we're going to be putting so much other thought into the high school. Are we doing enough right now as we go through that discussions over the next 3 to 5 years, 10 years, that it's a sustainable facility for our staff and for our students?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, it's a lot of money. It's a
Right.
major investment. I know the city was very thoughtful about it, and I'm appreciative. But I want to make sure that we're pushing for everything we need. And granted, they may have to say no.
Right.
But are we doing on our end
I'm
what
very
we should be?
comfortable that, the projects that are prioritized for 2014 is what we need right now. We're going to have the luxury of having that comprehensive facility review to take place, June to December, so that when we start talks on next year's capital plan for 2015, we're then going to have kind of an independent third-party review of what's happening in an assessment, K-12. And we're obviously going to come back and modify some of the stuff from 2015. Stuff's going to move to the top, something may move to the bottom. But I'm very confident, given the $7 million investment in 14, that it's what we need in the right schools at the right time. And then 15 really needs to be looked at as part of the bigger comprehensive package.
Thank you. Mr. Gignac.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that we have to keep in mind, once the comprehensive facilities assessment is conducted, that the firm might have different suggestions that we address in a different manner, whether it's time or whether it's investment in a dollar amount. So I think we are going in the right direction. I know that our administration has worked closely with the city administration to prioritize, but from just serving on the committee for a short period of time, we've been able to move a lot of things as far as the facilities. So the progress is going in the right direction, but once we do have that assessment done, I'm sure there will be things that we need to move around on this capital plan and add, maybe even moves, bring some things forward. And there might be some things that we've completely missed, whether it's our staff that missed it or the city staff. I mean, this firm is a professional firm that will be looking for that stuff. So, I mean, there's always room for change, but this is a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gignac. I guess the one last question, it pertains to kind of facility space. I know we were looking at the Rogers School next year for kindergarten and first grade. Are we still looking at like renting space at this point? I know we had discussions like several months ago in regards to potentially having to move some staffing in order to have the appropriate spacing. I don't know if that's something you guys are still going to bring forward, or
If you want to.
The plans of what's going to happen at the Rogers School have been contingent upon the charter school opening up. So the first budget area we've been talking about internally is our day program, which of course is the numbers in kindergarten and first grade, which has been a challenge for us over time. And so it's maintaining enough capacity for the overflow. We will be losing students. We have met with the charter school. We want to know that number. And, but there will, in our estimation, be some classes at the Rogers. It may not be as extensive, but we want to get our class size down in the early years as much as possible. So we're looking at that, and that will be part of the budget piece. Additionally, there are a couple of new CSA, which is children in the autism spectrum classes that have to open. So we're taking this all into consideration, but the first part of the budget process that we've been looking at internally, and Mr. Lang has gone through every building with every principal about need and staffing and whatnot, is to say what are the core pieces to our standard curriculum. Rogers will be part of it, but we're seeing it might be a little smaller than we had thought due to the charter school cutting down to more students up through grade 4 and not having a 5th grade. So we're meeting with those people. We're getting even names of students, trying to cross-reference, and that'll all be ready as part of the proposal for budget.
great. Thank you very much for that update. I don't know, Mr. Lang or Madam Superintendent, if you have any other.
No, I do think, there's been a considerable amount of work that's gone into, the school's forwarding proposals to us, our internal review, the city's internal review. I think for, the city to be able to invest in both city and school buildings, $12 million in a year is great. It's good news for us. I think, this certainly will address the most significant of our projects this year, and it does advise us that extra year to really work with the comprehensive assessment to make sure that things are all in there for 15, 16, and 17, because we do have to continue the discussion about the preventative maintenance and really having it be an even allocation of money each year to fund and sustain these projects, as opposed to having a big chunk of money in one year and waiting 3 or 4 years and putting another chunk in. So I think we're certainly going in the right direction. And hopefully that assessment will help us plan the next 10 years out.
No doubt, it's been a major investment by the city and major hours put in by your staff and Mr. Snow's staff as well, putting this together, and thank you very much for doing it. I guess I take it as a motion as a report of progress by Mr. Gignac, second by myself. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Gignac, second by myself. All those in favor, aye. Thank you very much.